All right, Bitcoin has soared over the last month on hopes that regulators are going to finally approve a spot Bitcoin ETF. We're looking at gains of just about almost 17% in the price of Bitcoin, getting a boost after BlackRock filed paperwork with the SEC last month, sparking a new wave of optimism, and several institutions followed. Well, Grayscale has been trying to get approval for a spot market ETF since 2016. Its last request was denied. Now the company is calling out the SEC. For more on this, we want to bring in Michael Sonnenshein, Grayscale Investments CEO. Michael, it's great to see you. And I want to bring up the letter that you recently sent. And we have a full screen here to show exactly what you are laying out. You sent a letter to the D.C. Court of Appeals questioning the SEC's decision to approve a leveraged Bitcoin future ETF after previously denying a spot Bitcoin ETF. So lay out your case here and why these two decisions don't add up.
Absolutely. Well, it's great to be back on the show. I would say that this really comes down to the core argument. When the SEC denied our application to convert GBTC into an ETF, we immediately filed a lawsuit challenging that decision. And the argument that really underpins that is that the SEC has approved not one, but several Bitcoin futures-based ETFs, right? Futures are a derivative of that underlying spot market, but continued to deny, including GBTC, spot Bitcoin applications from coming to market. And those arguments were presented to the court. We believe that they're common sense and compelling arguments, but the SEC now has gone on and continued to even go further into this arbitrary behavior by now approving a leveraged Bitcoin futures ETF, which in the actual prospectus itself outlines that that's an even riskier product, right? And so we do feel here that investors should have choice, right? They should be able to use Bitcoin futures ETFs. They should be able to use spot Bitcoin ETFs, really whatever's going to fit their mandate as an investor.
Michael, why do you think the SEC has been so reluctant? I mean, what's your read on what is driving or what's motivating the SEC to put the brake?
Well, I can really only point to what they've said in their denials, right? The SEC has been looking for a market that is surveillable, a market that maybe has the qualities and characteristics of other markets that they're used to seeing. That being said, there are new conversations being had around surveillance sharing agreements and other types of constructs that maybe the SEC will be persuaded by, but time, I think, will tell.
Michael, many, though, are looking at the approval of the leveraged Bitcoin futures ETF as a positive step forward, given the fact that then maybe this makes it a little bit more likely that the SEC is going to approve a Bitcoin spot ETF. Do you share in that view?
Well, I think there's been a recent wave of ETF applications that have come in, and part of that optimism really does revolve around the GBTC lawsuit. We've been transparent with the market that we expect a decision from the court sometime, could be as soon as over the next few weeks, but probably by the fall, the latest. And so there's a lot of issuers that have been looking at not only has GBTC kind of laid the groundwork and become a place where many investors have gotten their Bitcoin exposure, but it's now the framework upon which they're basing their operations, their disclosure, et cetera. So they believe that in fact, could be a catalyst if a favorable outcome is reached there. And it continues to show that, investor interest and appetite for this asset class isn't going away. And the continuation of Bitcoin futures, Bitcoin levered futures ETFs, these are all additional access points that investors now have.
Michael, it's been, more than 8 months now since we saw really just the collapse of FTX. And there were a lot of concerns, conversations around that time about what the future of crypto will look like. I mean, you've got institutional names now trying to get in with a spot Bitcoin ETF. I realize the opportunity is there as well. But what do you think has evolved in the thinking within the crypto space? And does that ultimately strengthen the case for investment into something like Bitcoin?
It's great to think about that timeline in perspective, because you're right. It was only, 6-8 months ago that the narrative around crypto was that it was being left for dead, or it was a passing fad, or investors were fleeing it. And what we've said is it's actually quite the opposite. This is my and Grayscale's third crypto winter, and we've continued to reiterate it's a great time to build, and it's a time when, crypto gets challenged and really demonstrates its resiliency. And so you've seen continued optimism, additional, institutional investors coming to the space, and assets like Bitcoin are some of the highest returning assets of the year. And so it really does show the staying power of the asset class, and that additional narrative from some of these incumbent legacy financial institutions is a really important construct for investors to keep in mind as well.
Michael, if we do see the approval of a Bitcoin spot ETF, how much of is that a game changer here for the industry, just in terms of wider adoption? And given the fact that many investors, you would think, want maybe some exposure to crypto, but they're more comfortable going that ETF route.
Exactly. I think the ETF wrapper is a tried and true product model that investors are used to for commodities, segments of the market, et cetera. And I think all of the issuers filing know there's a lot of pent-up demand. And so whether you're looking at GBTC or any of the other products looking to come to market, there are trillions of dollars on the sideline, even just in the financial advisor market, that are looking for a convenient solution to give their clients exposure to Bitcoin. So we do think it could be a material moment for Bitcoin, to say the least.
Okay, to be continued there. Grayscale Investment CEO Michael Sonnenshein, good to have you on today.
Thank you.